As shared by SJ in this keynote speech, China presents huge opportunities for business and legal professionals all over the world. As an in-house lawyer myself, I share the same question with you all as to how best can in-house lawyers help our business to understand this market, and how should we make use of our professional knowledge and connectivity to help our companies to take advantage of national policy development. In the coming panel session, Mr. Nick Chan, elected and serving Hong Kong, Deputy of the National People's Congress of the PRC, and Melissa Plan, member of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference of the PRC, will share how new national policy development may impact the in-house legal sector. Ms. Joyce Zhang, Senior Corporate Lawyer of ANZ Banking Group, will moderate the session. The panelists may take questions from the floor. For those of you who are joining via Zoom, please use Zoom's Q&A function. Panelists will address your questions as they see fit, and you should all now have a QR code together with the conference brochure. We'll be uploading event photos from time to time, and you may access the photos by scanning the QR code. May I now invite Nick, Melissa, and Joyce?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to today's 2023 Annual Conference of In-House Lawyers. I'm Joyce Cheng, the moderator of the first session, Impacts of National Development Plans on Business and the In-House Legal Profession. From the opening by Mr. President CM Chan and also the keynote speech from SJ, Mr. Paul Lam, they have alluded to the theme of today's conference, from in-house connector to super connector. So in the traditional sense, it's easy to understand, right? As in-house lawyers, we are the corporate connector. We provide legal advice, we manage the legal risks, and of course, we need to facilitate the business, right? To make the deal, to make the business, to help the business grow. But then now that we can see that there's a trend of increasing population of in-house lawyers, so which means business is actually placing more importance on their in-house legal team. They are more willing to invest in their in-house legal team. That means actually, as in-house lawyers, are we able to bring in more value to the business development in a more strategic way in terms of like new opportunities and in light of the changes in the current climate? So we are very pleased and honored to be able to hear it firsthand from our very distinguished speakers today. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Nick Chan, MHJP. He's no stranger to many of us. He's a partner at Squire Patton Box. He has computer science background with in-house experience at 2 Fortune 100 technology companies where he had regional responsibilities. Nick is an elected and serving Hong Kong deputy to the National People's Congress of the PRC, in Cantonese 全國人民代表大會嘅港區代表全國人大. He was also involved in the formulation of the current 14th five-year plan. He's also the director of ELCO, Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, so on and so forth. There's a very long list of his bio, which I will refer you to her booklet. And Ms. Melissa Pang, again, Ms. Melissa, BBS MHJP, and of course, she is also no stranger to many of us. She was the first female president of the Law Society of Hong Kong in its history of 116 years. She is a partner of Pang and Associates. She is also a member of National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, in Cantonese, 中國人民政治協商會議嘅港區委員。She is very devoted to community services. She is the chairperson of the Family Council, the Agency of Volunteer Services, the Hong Kong Press Council, and the Independent Review Committee of Po Leung Kok. Again, a long list which I will refer you back to the full bio in the booklet. Because if I continue, I think it will take another 5 minutes. So back to this session. This session will be divided into a few parts. Individual presentation by our speakers, and then there will be a panel discussions, and if time permits, I hope I can open the Q&A session to the floor, to the audience. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, please welcome our first speaker, Mr. Nick Chan. Nick, please.
Good morning, everyone. Okay. Good morning, fellow colleagues, friends, council members, past presidents. Thank you all for the honor and privilege to be here to conduct an exchange with you. I would have to first thank the Law Society for grooming me, to train me, friends, giving me the opportunity to harness my legal knowledge and knowledge about, the general society. And do some civic service, and ultimately currently led to this position, serving fellow citizens, residents as a member of the National People's Congress. So today, in the next 15-20 minutes, I just want to maybe share a few thoughts about how I see our role should be. I've served in-house before, as you've heard. I was at Cisco, I was at AT&T with regional responsibilities. But now I am no longer in-house. I feel like I'm in out-house, so don't laugh at me for that. But anyway, so I think to be successful as a lawyer, at least I'm taught when I was in my trainee days at my first job in Hong Kong, I was told to be a good lawyer, you must understand your client's needs. And another mentor told me to be a good lawyer, you have to help your boss's boss like your boss. So, it applies to us differently. In this context, as in-house lawyers, maybe we have to help our business leaders succeed before their business leaders or before their clients, depends on who that boss is. So I'm thinking, in a general sense, bosses, business people generally would do well if they excel well in a huge market. 1.4 billion people market with over 700 million middle income families. So I think certainly a lot of companies are here, they pay us decently as a regional council because they don't only see the Hong Kong market, but they see the greater China market and the North Asia and the Asia market. We are the southern gateway of China. We are super connector. You are the super connector. I guess one of the thoughts I want to leave you with is, apart from being a lawyer, who is able to see the big picture, help clients excel by understanding also the political climate and how things are changing, evolving, technology and all that. It's also think about one day, if you're not ready, take up a business role, make a bigger impact with a legal knowledge, but take on a bigger role, impact more. That's also one of the reasons why I felt extremely satisfying to not just do one case at a time, but to be involved in policy setting, lawmaking. So I would also take this opportunity, hope you could guide me. PRC's constitution, our country's constitution, one country, two systems, we've heard it many times. I know many of us are pushing for this important task, so people to fully understand it. But I would encourage you, when you read the Constitution, to read the preamble, to understand where things are coming from. Also, when we talk about one country, two systems, the two systems, of course, is not common law and civil law. Right? It's the socialist system with Chinese characteristics in mainland China, and the capitalist system we continue to enforce, apply in Hong Kong. So if you look at our Constitution, you look at history, really you look at the preamble, it sort of explains why, of the many different paths to democracy we could choose, we choose this system. Our founding fathers, choose this system. So there's not enough time to go into that, philosophy and all that. But if you have questions about it, I'm happy to talk about it offline here. So Article 1 of our Constitution. The socialist system is a fundamental system of the People's Republic of China. Leadership by the Communist Party of China is the defining feature of socialism with Chinese characteristics. It's not something we could, we should, or we could, or we would, overturn. This is our constitution. As lawyers, we know better than anyone. When you operate in a jurisdiction, you must, follow the law. And this is the collective view of the people and, of our people and of our founding fathers, of course. We are now at our 4th constitution. So after, so anyway, so I want to say this so I can lead on to the next slide to explain why, Joyce would ask me to say the significance of the 20th CPC National Congress. I'm not a member of the 20th National Congress of the CPC. I'm a member of the next one here, which is the National, next one. I'll come back, but you know what I mean, the National People's Congress. But I would say when I help clients navigate territories, laws, as you do in the region, some of the things you think about is, what are they thinking next? In China, they say, business people say, 食政策. Literally means eat the policy, but I don't think, it's a good translation. It means you maybe ride on policies. So if the big policies are set in March each year, the biggest political calendar of China, where we have the meetings of the CPPCC and the Political Consultation Committee and the National People's Congress, which is the organ, the people, 3,000 odd people who are entrusted to voice the voice of the people. That's in March. But what about in October? In October, if you see the Constitution talks about it's led by the Communist Party, and China does have 9 political parties in play all the time. So there are, of course, differences, of opinion, but it's about how we amalgamate and come to a consensus. So when you see in March, when we vote, you might not see a very tight vote, partly because you had the chance many months to kind of agree on something or disagree and feel that it's not the right time to bring it up for vote. So we have, so I would suggest, as many international news organizations and leaders of multinational corporations already do, look at the October CPC meeting. It's already the 20th session, so every 5 years there's a session. And some of the key things it talked about is to emphasize why one country, 2 systems is so special, and it's gone into the constitution of the Communist Party of China. So if that's a leading party and their own party's constitution expressly now inserted statements saying, yes, 1 country, 2 systems is good, let's do it. And a lot of us talk about, sometimes you might wonder, I get a lot of questions about, well, why is 1 country, 2 systems so amazing, so special? Why does it think you could promote peaceful development of the world? So 1 country, 2 systems have been talked about in the 1950s. And then in the 70s, in 1979 in particular, where mainland China sent letter to the comrades, friends in Taiwan, saying, let's try this, 1 country, 2 systems. And you talk about years, decades of Cold War. And with that backdrop, you see some people in the world are dead set saying, capitalist system is the only system. And there are some who, obviously, countries and people who live in a different system. So if in 1 country, 2 systems can coexist peacefully, why can't we all in the world exist peacefully? That's the concept. Anyway, so let me go quickly through the, so I would skim through this slide because a lot of these are then, because it's decided in October, it's sort of, the details are flushed out and then approved in the March meetings at the National People's Congress. Some of the things to highlight would be adhere to the people-centric principle and use technology, tech up. And like, the reason why, over the last 10 years, our GDP has gone, doubled up doubled. It's because we have not only short-term plans, but we have medium, long-term plans. And I think as in-house lawyers, we should try to engage in that process within our own company and for ourselves as well. What is our short, medium, long-term plan? So, but let's understand those. So if they have putting, I mean, China is a country with GDP of 121 trillion yuan, right? It's a lot of money. So when you put that kind of resource behind ideas, and that's been, you know, sort of from the ground up, built up. So I'm confident they would succeed. Let's talk about what happened in March this year. So in March this year, and typically we would consider the work report of the government. The government will report to the people through us what they've done, and we have the chance to raise questions. And quite frankly, at those meetings, during those sessions and meetings, I am in constant touch with friends in Hong Kong. I'd like to be in touch with you. You can share with me what we can do more. Just like in the 14th Five-Year Plan, when we talk about the 8 centers of Hong Kong, I was actually using WhatsApp up there and texting my friends, bureau chief, can we do this? If we change this word, would you pick it up? Or would you say it's a silly idea? So there's a lot of things going on in the background. The 36 of us deputies from Hong Kong serving at the national level are in touch with different functional constituencies, so to speak. There's no specific seat for lawyers, but of course I feel very much affinity to all of you. So if you or your business through you have suggestions on how we could do better as a country, please let us know. This year we also elected the president for the third term, and we pass laws and make a lot of suggestions. Highlight, I think, it's a modernization of China. A modernization of a country that is second strongest economy in the world with 1.4 billion people. It's going to bring a lot of opportunities. Because of geopolitics, it's a fact, elephant in the room is there, right? It is, from so-called decoupling to now a slight lighter touch, de-risking, but doing the same thing, seems like. What do we do? And in your role, where your maybe global headquarters outside of this part of the world says, well, I don't know, look at the Western media, it looks risky, dangerous. Should we just move all to Singapore or elsewhere? Should we shut it all down? Is it really that bad? Is anything else that bad? Anyway, we're counting on you to help share what's happening in reality. There are some clear signs. You see, we're building up a digital economy. At the moment, with a large GDP, but we have about 70% of the economy is digital related. That's about the same as real estate and construction. And maybe 1/3 of the economy is based on import-exports. So if you take all this into account and you can't take into account the change in supply chain issues, you hear about sanctions, AML, frankly, illegal sanctions because they didn't get approval from the Security Council, right, from the UN. And you see some of these import duties that are quite anti-competitive, but they slept on anyway in some other parts of the world. That's going to affect how things are done. I spoke with some people in the logistics industry. They're saying the reality is that there are less shipments going to Europe and the US. So it's a tough time, but there's a concept of dual circulation. If we could buy from each other, at the moment, Chinese savings about 44% of what we earn. I don't know if we do the same in Hong Kong, but in mainland China, that's the statistics. So if people could spend more on each other locally, and if we could, from zero to end, if there are technology where we are nothing, we're not there, think about like the Hong Kong, one of the hub that Melissa would mention would be the aviation hub, right? And actually we have to change some words from center to hub, because when it's a hub, HUB, it's there won't be a hub next to you, right? But anyway, but like the Hong Kong airport, anyone from the airport authority here can verify. I think we're using an American software powerhouse. I'm not against Americans, right? But that company also developed, Patriot missiles. So when somebody from the US went over to Taiwan, their stock prices went up. But I'm thinking some of us are worried, well, what if one day all our planes can't take off because the software as a service is just stopped, over the cloud. So what do we do? So there are many opportunities for us to think about how we could help businesses go into these areas from 0 to 1 or 0 to N. At TechHub, there's a lot of concepts about I2X, which is internet, like V2X, vehicle to the network, right? Billy's the expert there. So there's a lot of things to bear in mind. When you think about national security law, don't think about those 4 things. Don't have to think about it all the time. You're not going to breach it, right, people in this room? But think about the 20 areas of concern, like food security, cyber security, biotech security. Those clearly are areas of concern, and a lot of money would pour into it. And how can we support it, and maybe not just a participant but benefit from it at the same time? So I'll speed up. I'm sure Joyce is looking at the time now. The National Data Administration is there because there's a need to level the playing field. There are perhaps in-house lawyers from BATS, right? Some of the big tech firms in mainland China. But it's really about how the whole country as a whole progress in livelihood. Also data sovereignty should belong to you. If you look at the PIPL, Personal Information Protection Law in China, yes, it's as good, if not stronger, slightly than the GDPR in Europe, in the EU. But that's needed because it's a law that, for the first time, make clear data belongs to you, especially in the Web 3.0 world. If you want to go into Web 3.0, you need that kind of law. So don't knock it yet. There are new measures coming up. There will be safe harbors and so on. So in our last meeting, we brought up 200 recommendations. There are some Chinese theories and concepts. If I have time, I'll go for a bit more. But if you want to excel well in the Chinese political circle, these are things you need to know. But if you're also in business with national level areas, these are things. So-called 4 consciousness, the 4 consciousness, I should say. Think in big picture terms. So today I hope to be a bit of an aid in the area, how to think in bigger picture, taking into account our cultural context and law. Have confidence in the system. Don't just knock it. Think about why it's there. Look at the preamble of the Constitution I mentioned. The affirmations, it isn't so much, when you talk about presidency, whoever is a president at the time, it's who we would be, we should rally behind. So it's not so much personal, individual glorification, so to speak, but we could talk a bit about that. The key is about stability and security in many different areas. Financial, employment, domestic trade, investment, so on and so forth. Very welcoming, for foreign investments. There will be continued liberalization, open up, renminbi, internationalization. We're not going to overtake, personal view, we're not going to overtake the US dollar anytime or have that, intention. But how can we do better, and how can Hong Kong get involved as a financial center in these things? So because of time, I fly through a bit more. Some data, you can look it up online, but generally good. We are globally, we are a 30-year high on inflation, but in China, inflation is at 2-3%. I believe we should be able to hit our target for 5% growth, but a lot of things we need to do. So here's a, Hon Tou Sik Zi, a picture speaks 1,000 words, but anyway, because of time. Melissa will also talk more about the Leung Gou, right, later on, the People's Court and the People's Procuratorate. So anyway, again, I'll pass it to Melissa later on. Belt and Road, a lot of opportunities. It isn't an empty rhetoric. Now, over 140 countries see China, work with China as the largest business partner. So, they would have a need, overseas clients or overseas business people will have a need to better understand how things work. And we need to harmonize some standards, such as rail track sizes have been harmonized so that we can now easier move our products west. And we could also, of course, bypass some submarines somewhere along the seacoast. Modernization is the key, and how we could play a part in that. would bring not just opportunities for the people living in mainland China, but elsewhere as well. So a lot of laws need to keep up to date or lead change, or culture, a lot of policy needs to change and improve. Okay, so this slide remind your business leaders overseas if they have doubts. Frankly, my personal admission is we can't do without operating with our friends from all over the world. We are not no man, no person is an island. So we as a country certainly support not just private businesses, but also not just state-owned businesses, but private businesses. And I think you should understand, in a socialist economy, you will always have state-owned enterprises to avoid, so-called the concept or the history of, as you saw, antitrust in the U.S. with railroads being, the purview of rich people operating through trust, and so that kind of concept. So if we speed up, we think about dual circulation, mainland China and Southeast Asian countries. President of the Law Society is going where? Going to Europe and been Asian, been everywhere, I think. So busy people. I thank the Council for his good work. So strong rule of law, it's also our role to assist in strong rule of law. Learn more about digital courts, smart courts in mainland China, and share that with your colleagues if they don't understand it. Hong Kong is the largest offshore renminbi center, but most of the transactions are still conducted in US dollars around the world. So there's a lot of room to grow, and we don't need to necessarily always be number one in everything. So anyway, plenty of opportunities, plenty of new technologies coming out. Be part of that change, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Nick can always, help us connect with like the big picture, macro view, and connect it to our daily life work, right? So a lot of examples. Thank you again, Nick, because I think as an in-house lawyer, it's also important to understand the more macro national development plan now, so that we can be more forward-looking, plan ahead to assist the business leaders in terms of their business planning and to find out the solutions and to, there are doors open up, actually, new doors opening up as well. So how to open that door. So there are a lot of things we can offer. So thank you, Nick, again. In my session, usually I take it very casual. So I will leave it to Melissa to decide whether you want to stand or you want to sit down. I think is a casual chat. I enjoy the dynamic. So next one, Melissa, please. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow practitioners. I'm very glad to be here to just have some sharing. As in reply to Joyce's kind words, I'll say I'll prefer to sit, because I can see like Nick is very fit. He can just stand up for half an hour and just keep talking. It's great that you have given such a macroscopic view of the National Development Plan, so we can know more. And actually, I must say, in next slide, there's a lot of big topics that has been covered. And I think it's a great start that if you are interested, and all those topics are very relevant, so you can just check it out on the website. There are many websites that can provide more in-depth discussion. And actually, I must say, like in the two sessions where Nick and I attended, I think I spent like 8 days there, and I think your time is even longer. So actually, because of the pandemic, we are locked up, we cannot go out. And they actually will give you like stacks and stacks of materials, and it's a lot of reading. And I think it's great. It's like a more in-depth crash course, or to know more about national development plans and about how the two sessions. Because I'm a newly elected, I'm newly appointed national member of the CPPCC. That's why I only appointed in February this year. So there's a lot of learning on my part and a lot for me to catch up. But for this in-house council, in-house lawyers annual conference, I think I must congratulate the organizer, the chair, and the organizing committee. This topic is actually very relevant, because a lot of people ask, why the two sessions is relevant to us. Even for Westerner, they're looking at it. I think the answer is very simple, because this is the place where they have the annual conference for the National People Congress, as well as the Chinese People Political Consultative Conference. The two sessions, of course, as you would understand, for the National People's Congress, they are China's top legislative body. And for CPPCC, is the National Political Advisory Body. But in the two sessions, there's a lot of things, a lot of learning, a lot of discussion, a lot of deliberation, and also is in the two sessions, we have the election of the leadership for the whole of China. And like for a lot of like foreigners, outsider, Westerner, they spend a lot of time looking what exactly is happening in the two sessions, because China is the second largest economy, and the two sessions actually map up China's annual economic development plan, look at the growth target, and all those macroeconomic policy. So it's very relevant to all the other countries who has been trading with China, having geopolitical relationship. It's very important. And also in the two sessions, you can see that many significant laws, regulation, and policy actually originated therefrom. And you can look at their issues like environmental protection, from education to healthcare. So there's urban issues to rural issues. They are all raised in the proposals and motions. And it's in the two sessions that consensus are being built up. So actually, they will work out consensus of policy, and they'll the next stage will be going into implementation of it. So we can see it's very important for us to know more. For Hong Kong, especially we're part of China, it's very important for us to know more about the direction China is heading and how it impacts Hong Kong. And also because we are lawyers, we've been learning a lot how to look at other people's perspective. We look at, for example, many of us are mediators. You have to look at how one party is looking at the perspective and how is the perspective of the other party. It's very important. Okay, let me mention about what exactly is the CPPCC. Oh, I have to move the slide a bit. Okay. Normally just call it 政協, okay? So it's 全國政協. So when you look at it, the CPPCC is actually an organization of patriotic united front and an important form of socialist democracy in China's political life. Then people say, oh, it sounds familiar. I know every single word of that in English. But what does it mean? Patriotic United Front. And what's socialist democracy? But when we look at it in more depth, I think it's very important to look at it. Because when you talk about Patriotic United Front, it's actually a political strategy of the Communist Party of China. So they have to do very good network of different groups and keen individuals from different organizations to advance the interests of the party. And when we look at the second word, socialist democracy, of course we know democracy. I mean, for lawyers trained in like common law, we all know about rule of law, democracy, is all the core values. But how do China, the mainland China, how do they understand socialist democracy? This is actually interesting, because to the Westerner, they always say, oh, democracy, it should be at least you have two parties or multi-party system. That's how they look at democracy. But then some will say, if there's only one party, as mentioned by Nick, under the Constitution, is ruled by one party, is that democracy? But when you look at the Chinese way of socialist democracy, it's different, because they are looking at the system is a multi-party cooperation and political consultation under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. Then one would say, how does it work? Multi-party cooperation and political consultation. It's actually very interesting because as CPPCC member, there's a lot we have to do. There's a role we have to take. We're not just sitting there rubber stamping. We are not. Let's look at what we have to do. In brief, for member of the CPPCC, of course, you have the national committee, you also have the province, you have the city, and other layers. You have to conduct investigation and studies. You have to report on social condition and the popular sentiment. And you have to undertake consultation and discussion about matters of key importance. So it ranges from politics, economy, cultural society, and the eco-environment. And also cover other issues of common concern. So it's very important for member of CPPCC to reach out to the people. We are acting as a conduit, as a communication role. We have to hear people's opinion and suggestion, and then to assist the government in addressing concerns, problems, and enhancing unity. So in this aspect, I think you can see that the way that it is structured, there is a lot of participation regarding non-Communist Party people, because they also allow other party, as Nick has mentioned, in China, there's not only one party, there's 9 recognized political party. So people can take part in deliberation of state affairs and exercise supervision. So when we have deliberation in the 2 sessions, it ranges all different topics. So everyone is like, they have done the research on a scientific way. So they are reporting on the social issues, economic issues, cultural issues. And they have to do it and submit reports. They have to address the background situation, and they have to put in recommendation. So I think it's a very good way, a very systematic way to address issues, so that in the 2 sessions, they can have built up consensus, how issues can be addressed. And also when you look at who are the people in the CPPCC, actually, it's a lot of representative. Of course, you have people from the Communist Party, and you also have people from the Democratic parties, and people without party affiliation, and from also mass organization. In China, we have 56 ethnic groups. They all have representation in the CPPCC, and different sectors of society. And also, they have special group from Hong Kong, and also Macau, and also Taiwan, and also from Return Overseas Chinese, and they have invited different public figures to join. And the National Committee of the CPPCC also as the same term as the NPC. It's a term of 5 years. So actually this year, 2023, is the first year of the term. Then we look at it. One thing, my personal observation is, I'm actually very moved. Actually, you can see, I must say, the mainland, the whole China, has attached a very important significance to Hong Kong. Because from Hong Kong, we think, we only 7.4, 7.5 million people, compared to 1.4 billion, the whole population of China. We are only 0.5% of the Chinese population. However, when we look at the representation in the CPPCC, I'm very surprised. Because you can look at the National Committee, they have 2,172 members, of course representing 56 ethnic groups. But the people representing Hong Kong, we have 196. If we look at the percentage, this is quite amazing because we have 9%. 9% of the total number of the National Committee of CPPCC are representative from Hong Kong. And if we just look at the whole Hong Kong population in relation to the Chinese population, we're only 0.5%. One wonders, why? Why so many people from Hong Kong? Because we do have a role to play. We are helping the modernization of the whole China. And I think if you look at it on a historical background, we do. And in Hong Kong, we have like 124 from different sectors, then from the Hong Kong rep. And also we have Hong Kong people in other sectors, for example, in the cultural sector, in the science, in the technology sector, etc. And the next thing I would like to share is a speech. It's part of a speech by President Xi, which he made at the closing of the first session on the 14th National People Congress. He pointed out that it's very important for China to the middle of this century. The central task is to build a socialist, modernized, strong country and to promote the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. So they do have the timetable. They do see that like in the middle of this century, maybe like 2030, 2040, they should achieve the aim of modernization of China. And they can see that building a strong country and for this national rejuvenation, Hong Kong have a very special role to play. They will say, promotion of a strong country cannot be separated from the long-term prosperity and stability of Hong Kong and Macau. So that's why like we can see many national leaders come to Hong Kong to give us a kind of instill confidence in the one country, two system. Because we have to work well, we have a very important role to play in the modernization of China. And President Xi said, it's important to promote the practice of one country, two system, and the great cause of national unification. And in the new journey of building a strong country and national rejuvenation, we must promote high-quality development and also adhere to putting people first, actively development democracy throughout the whole process, and implement the development ideology centered on the people. So it is very important that we can see that there's a strong promotion of the practice of one country, two system, and the great cause of national reunification. So this is very important because it's important to look from the perspective of how our national leader is looking at the one country, two system. Next, I'll just concentrate on 3 terms. I think I'll just briefly go over them. I think in the 2 sessions, there's 3 keywords we just have to bear in mind. One is high quality development. So I think President Xi pointed out clearly that high quality development is the primary task of building a socialist modernized country. So when you can see that the importance of high level technological self-reliance is the only way to do so. And also like in the agricultural aspect, building an agricultural power is also very important. So you can see this word high quality development will apply in all different sectors. I think it's important and I think it's very reasonable and justifiable. And the next word is about our own people, 自己人. I mean, without knowing the background, you say, who are our own people? Actually, this phrase is addressed to private enterprise and entrepreneur. because the message coming out is like, it's very important for a private enterprise to be a vital force in achieving this Chinese dream of national rejuvenation. So they want to more private enterprise together achieving high quality development. So you can see it's all interrelated. And also the third word that's very important is consolidating the national strategic system. And this is actually regarding building up national strategic system to achieve national strength and a strong military. So they can see it's very important to have a strong military and a national strength. But for these three keywords, if you're interested, you can just check it up. It's just repeating in many like articles and very important research. And one thing we also observe is about the Supreme Court's, the Supreme People's Court work report and the Supreme People's Procuratorate work report. You can see the whole China is now focusing on the rule of law. They're building the rule of law in China. And is emphasizing a very firm adherence to the path of socialist rule of law with Chinese characteristic. And you can, one very interesting thing is, if any of you been to the Chinese court physically, you can see in every single court, on top, they have a banner, be it in a metal banner or in a like a cloth banner. They can say it's very important to ensure people are feeling fairness and justice in every single case. So that is the aim. That is like the core value of the People's Court. So that have to ensure whoever going to the court fighting the case, they have to come out and fear, and they can feel they are treated fairly, and they can feel justice is being done. On this aspect, I do have a few observations that's very interesting. The first one is like, you can see like, just as the court system is, they have a lot of cases every year. They handle many cases. And also, I think similar to Hong Kong, they do have the issue of judges shortage. And now, in order to make sure justice is delivered without undue delay, so you can see now it's very important they are resolving to non-litigation dispute resolution mechanism, just like Hong Kong is doing, like mediation, arbitration, and now they are, of course, they're talking more on mediation, because as many of those regarding like people enforcing their rights and also companies. And they have to also done a lot to the prevention of conflicts. And they want to reduce the number of lawsuits. So they are doing a lot of like mediation, dispute resolution. And now they have one-stop service so that they can do it on a more efficient and effective way. And the second one is about smart court, I think, and digital court. And you can see like the whole of China, they now like putting a lot of resources. And I think they are definitely leading, because whenever we go to international conferences, you can see the use of AI, digitization of courts, they are all very commonly discussed topic. But in China, for those who have been to the Chinese like court, you can see they are actually very advanced in that aspect. Now they can even have case hearing using their handphone. And also they have round-the-clock litigation service. So people can handle online litigation, court hearing, and other service. And how about the use of AI? Now, lately, I was in Malaysia, and I think there was news. They say Sabah, in the eastern coast of Malaysia, they claim they're the first court to use AI, because they use AI to deliver judgment in the aspect of, I think, it's personal injury and also in some traffic offense cases. But in China, there's a strong application of using artificial intelligence. They have also developed like 5 principles about how to use AI. However, I remember following Law Society to visit the Supreme Court. I did raise the question like, oh, how does the use of artificial intelligence in the judiciary? The answer I got back is they do have principles how to use it. However, the judges must have the final say. So there's no worry. You rely on the AI to do it, to do all the background, to do the suggested recommendation. However, the judges do have the final call, the final say on that. And another aspect is regarding judicial cooperation. In the report, which we learned in the 2 sessions, you can see regarding cases that are related to Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Actually, every year, the Supreme People's Court handle over 46,000 judicial assistance cases. And I'm very glad to hear from the SJ from the opening speech regarding judicial assistance, reciprocal enforcement on judgment, and also insolvency, and also the arbitration, interim measure, etc. So it's a very good way, because we can see Hong Kong government through, and of course the DOJ has been doing a lot for the infrastructure for the Hong Kong legal community. So that's why we can have the advantage of acting as an international super connector. But from when we look at it from the whole of China, looking at the report from the Supreme Court, you can see the way they look at it, the use of AI, and also the judicial cooperation, like also like dealing with Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. It's all very important. And any of you, if you're interested, go and look at the report. It's actually quite thick. But I think they do have the English version as well as a Chinese one on the official website. The next, I'm just going to be quickly addressing on the 5 years plan. Of course, in the 5 years plan, we can see that it's mapping out the development plan and action agenda. And actually, for Hong Kong, we have a chapter on the Hong Kong aspect. And the Hong Kong chapter, we have been in the 5 year plan since the 11th, I think it's 2006. And we can see that it's very good that there's a chapter outlining the support of the development of Hong Kong. And they also have strategy to enhance Hong Kong competitiveness in all around different economic activity. And also because how to help Hong Kong integrate in the development of the whole China is a very big issue. And we can also, why this is the 14th 5-year plan is so important. Because actually, when we talk about 小康社會, building a moderately prosperous society, that has been achieved in the year 2020. And now from 2021 onwards, which is the start of the 14th 5-year plan, which is another start. This start they call it a new journey, 新征程. So it's towards building a modernist, socialist country. I think when we look at all those reports, the 14th 5-year plan, etc., at least we see a very clear map of what the whole China is going towards and what is the role of Hong Kong. So that's why if we have a role in part of the whole modernization of China, if we know what are the roles given to Hong Kong, different roles, at least we can equip ourselves to seize the opportunity and to meet the challenges. I think on the 14th 5-year plan, there's a lot of main content. I think you can just take note of it. Just if you're interested, go and check it out. But I think if I just summarize quickly on the Hong Kong chapter, there's 2 important points. First, it goes back to the constitution order. It's attached very important on the one country, 2 system. the constitutional order will be maintained, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge the central authority over jurisdiction over Hong Kong. So we go back to the basics. So that's the number one. Make sure the constitutional order of Hong Kong is maintained. And also about national security, sovereignty, security, and development. So they're all those going back to interrelated. But it's very important. Those are the core points, which we hear from day in, day out. And the second point is how to, that's a more practical, the second point, how to enforce, reinforce, and enhance Hong Kong competitive advantages, so that we can integrate in the overall development of Hong Kong, of the China. Because that's no good if the whole China is go through their modernization. And if we are not proactive, we could be left behind. Because we can see it's a lot of competition, even from other cities, other provinces. But there is a special role for us to play, and it's important for us to effectively discharging our role. And one very important point is in the 14th five-year plan, we all know, we've all been aware, and Hong Kong Law Society has been putting a lot of effort. It's about the Greater Bay Area. And I think we do have the, our Greater China Chairman, Roden, our VP here. And also our President, CM Chan, has been leading a lot of delegation in the past year or so, and also in coming months, to visit different cities in the Greater Bay. And I think for Hong Kong Law Society, we have regular meeting with law association in the Greater Bay, so that we know what we are doing, how we can work together to collaborate. And I think it's important for the Greater Bay different law societies and also their people to know what Hong Kong can offer. So it's important. We are good, we are very strong in different areas. But do they know? Some of them might know. But this Hong Kong story is important for us to tell the Hong Kong story well, and also tell the story about the strength of the Hong Kong legal profession. Regarding the 8 centers, I think there's no need for me to go through it each one by one. I think all of you will be very familiar with the 8 centers, which is the 8 role that Hong Kong got the strength. And especially relevant to Hong Kong legal profession is we are the International Legal and Dispute Resolution Service Center. And of course, the Intellectual Property Trading Center. But when you look at the 8 centers, one thing in common, if we're looking from the perspective of a legal profession, all of them require legal backings. They all require legal service. So that's why we don't just concentrate on the one that's related International Legal and Dispute Resolution Center, because financial center, innovation, technology, cultural, trade, shipping, aviation, etc., they all need people with legal background to assist. I think on this point, maybe I can stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I think Melissa has shared a lot in terms of the role of CPPCC. It gives us a lot of transparency as to what how things are done at the CPPCC level. I think it's very interesting to hear about the court report. So I think it actually feels quite different to hear it directly from Melissa rather than just read it from the newspaper. So thank you again. So let's move on to the panel, a quick, short and sweet panel discussion. So first question to Nick. In your presentation, you've been talking about how the macro national development plan would have an impact on the business. So in light of the current geopolitical scenarios, so how would you advise any views as to how business can safely navigate through such situations?
Thank you, Joyce. I would say have confidence in the long-term prospect of this great country. And therefore, when you help your customers, your clients, your boss's boss, or your boss set up, rearrange supply chain, do better management, AML, all that. Don't just all completely move out. There are many good reasons to be based in Hong Kong, right? Geographical, tax, all that. So I think in short, I would say help them understand the big picture, share your cultural in-depth knowledge for someone living on the ground here, and let them together with you join the board make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Moving to Melissa. So I think there's one buzzword that every one of us has been talking about, GBA. I think you also lightly mentioned it in your presentation. So Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong is part of the Greater Bay Area. And then there is also the GBA lawyers exam. So I'm not sure how many in-house lawyers have taken it, but I'm sure it seems like it's a discussion there about any opportunities for business in the GBA. What do you think? And also in particular from the legal profession perspective, what do you think about the role and opportunity in GBA?
No, I think the role of opportunities, whenever you talk about lawyers, we follow our clients. And or in-house, of course, you follow your own boss. I think it's, if there's a lot of development, a lot of opportunities in the GBA. So for corporate, for individual, and you can say a lot of people actually move to the GBA to work, to start their business and also to study. So I think it's important for lawyers to follow their clients, simple as that. So there's a lot of opportunity, be it in different industry. And you can see that for the GBA, the population is over 18 million. You can see Hong Kong is only 7 million. When you look at the ratio of lawyers, you all know that Hong Kong have like 13,000 solicitors, okay, not counting the barristers. Okay, for that, you look at the ratio, it's like every 500 people, that's one lawyer. This ratio is actually, on an international level, is actually quite high, okay? So in order for I do have members coming to talk to me and say, wow, if we don't make the pie bigger, then how can we get a good earning? Especially when nowadays the economy is a bit soft. So I think it's very important for the GBA is so close to us. 1 hour living, okay, I think it's 1 hour you can get to most places in the GBA. And there are opportunities both for lawyers and also for our clients. It's important for us to take a step there. And I think for the GBA exam, I think the pilot scheme, we have the first one in 21, the second one 22, and the third one just a couple of, a month or so ago. I heard the number of solicitors taking part or lawyers taking part is 1,500. And up to now, because I think the first or second batch, they already can to get registered, get their license, practicing license. And I think the number is now around 300 plus. And I think it's a very good opportunity for us to get another qualification. It's just like many of us are qualified in UK, in Australia, and also in maybe some taking New York Bar, etc. I think it's very important. So it is a pilot scheme, and I hope soon they'll make it into a permanent scheme. Law Society have done a lot trying to convince the MOJ that it's a very worthwhile exam. And actually, for those who say, I'm in-house, I will not practice in the GBA, but why should I take that exam? I tell you why. If you just go through newspaper and just go article, you're not doing the learning in the quickest way and the most effective, systematic way. For those who have, I think here, a number of you, and maybe I just a head count, how many of you have taken the GBA exam? Okay, I do see a couple. It's a very tough exam. And I remember looking at the material, I say, goodness, I don't count it in inches. I count it in feet, 2 feet tall. Oh, that's really scary. However, after going through the information, you do learn a lot. And it's the most quickest way to learn. And I think even for those you don't think you'll practice, those information are very important. Just like what the information Nick and I just share. I think it will be useful to at least to know more about those things as a background. Because you can see even many non-Hong Kong people, Westerner, foreigners, they are studying those. They are learning that.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa, because I think taking the GPA exam really helps to understand the legal system and the laws and the relevant sort of mindset, the legal mindset of China. So even if as in-house lawyers, whether or not you're going to practice as a GPA lawyer, but it's worthwhile to understand the law and the legal system so that it will assist you to have a better understanding, to have a better communication to help your business to do business in China. So there won't be that kind of like gap when you have to communicate with your external counsel, so on and so forth. So I believe it's a worthwhile study. Moving back to Nick. So I think in Melissa's slide about the 8 centers, so they're like all different industries. And actually as in-house lawyers, I'm pretty sure we have in-house counsels actually in all those different industries. But then in talking about all these like national development plans, etc., do you see any opportunities for in-house lawyers? And we are talking about we being the super connectors. Any insights?
Thank you, Joyce. I'd say as in-house lawyers who are in the thick of everything, you know, you see a lot of things behind the scene that maybe lawmakers don't see because you are at the front line. So in many ways, firstly, there are not just 8 centers for Hong Kong. These are 8 focus areas, right? So to the extent you can see other areas worth developing or how we could develop it better, please raise it to make the pie bigger or make the cake bigger in China, I would say, for one. Secondly, I'd say we should firstly maintain our strong mental health despite taking those exams. Mental health is important, physical health is important, and then we skill up with all the technical knowledge and geographical knowledge. You know, as you practice regional law, we're probably not licensed in every place we have understanding or have responsibility for, but learn just not the law, but in some ways the politics of it. I mean, you know, there's election in Taiwan in January 2024. There's election in the US, for example, in November 2024, but the candidates have been announced since March this year. So a lot of things are happening behind the scene that make things the way they are now. But if you could see behind the cloud, blow it away and see, there are things we could do. And I would encourage you, as I said at the start of my presentation, to, you know, take on also business roles and maybe other, you know, public service role as well.
Thank you, Nick. I still remember in last year's conference, we also talked about, you know, whether internal legal could take a seat in the board. So I think this is the opportunity where as the in-house legal counsel, actually we can also take a bigger role in the business. So thank you once again. I've got a queue from I have to wrap up. So thank you once again to Nick and Melissa. I think I'm sure, if I may, I'm sure they will be more than happy to interact with any one of you. If you've got any comments, any questions, please feel free to reach out to Nick and Melissa directly. I'm sure they will be more than happy to do so. So once again, thank you, Nick and Melissa, and I will end this session now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lek, Melissa, and Joyce. May I invite you to stay on the stage as the Law Society would like you to present you a souvenir. May I invite Vice President Mr. Rodentong to proceed to the stage and present the souvenirs to our panelists.